You know that sinking feeling when you open your inbox and you see you have 173 unread emails? Well, what if your emails read themselves, replied themselves, and got it down without you lifting a finger? Well, today on the Lobster Talks, I'm talking with Nizi, aka Nazar Abizar, the founder of Zero, the AI-powered email client that doesn't just organize your inbox, it acts on it. So we're going to get into how this all got started, how it's going and growing today, fresh off of the latest YC demo day. Nizi, thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Gabriel.
Let's dive in. So I tried, but could you introduce Zero and introduce yourself, please?
Of course, yeah. So we're building Zero. It's an AI native email client that manages your inbox, so you don't have to. We wanted to build something that people hate. They say build stuff you love, but I wanted to build something people actually hate, and so we wanted to. We found that email is that thing people were complaining about, and we set our goals on building the best email client and the email experience, and that's what we're currently doing. So you said my name is Nazar. It is Nazar. People usually call me Nizzy, but yeah, I lived in Canada for most of my life, and I'm a founder of Zero.
Very cool. It's interesting. You didn't start by saying, I want to build an email thing. You started by saying, I want to build something that really solves a big pain. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay, I love that. And so, I mean, email is something that I hate. So I think a lot
yeah.
of people you talk to. How did you approach this? So you were not a founder with, were you specifically looking for an idea?
Not really. I always liked, I like problems. Even as a kid, I just liked working on things that were difficult, whether it be like puzzles or math problems or anything like that. And engineering always caught my eye. So when I was just working on any sort of project like I typically would, I stumbled upon email, and it was really fascinating to me because it's such an old communication tool, yet it's used by half of the world. So it was like that was very interesting concept to me and my co-founder Adam, and we're like, maybe we can build something here. So we just set our sights on working on this problem, started talking to more email users, and it felt like every person had a problem with email. No one was satisfied. No one was yeah, this is the email client I want. There was none of that. So we saw that as like as an opportunity, and yeah, that's what we're currently working on.
It is so cool because, like you said, everyone uses email. It is sort of outdated. I'm sure everyone listening can relate to that, and it's not really been solved. And so, of course, I want to address the elephant in the room. Many people might be thinking, "Oh, they're superhuman. That's always, or at least for the next few years, you're going to be compared against them." How are you different? But also, I can tell you, because I don't know if listeners are using Superhuman. I use Superhuman daily since it started for probably 5 years, and it's good. But still, I'm not satisfied with email. So that's where your
Yeah.
thesis is absolutely correct. Email is not, a solved problem. So tell us how you're different and how you want to be better than them.
Yeah, definitely. Firstly, Superhuman has laid out a ton of good things. I don't want to say that Superhuman's terrible. I think over the past 10 years, they've been doing a ton of good work, and there's nothing bad to say about them. Where we sort of want to differentiate is sort of our approach to email and how we look at the inbox. We firstly want to make it as effortless as possible. All these email clients, whether it be Notion Mail or even Superhuman, as good as they are, they make it very difficult to migrate off of Gmail and Outlook. And so we want to make that experience as seamless as possible and as easy to migrate over. So whether it's like a one-click migrate deploy or a sort of r- you know an easy experience, not something you have to memorize. We want that to be a seamless jump. That's where we've seen like a lot of success with our current users and other successful companies. And the other aspect is again looking at the inbox is something completely different. We have a ton coming, but we sort of want to integrate AI the right way, add in features that makes people's lives easier, sort of make it effortless. All these companies want inbox zero. That's their entire goal. But I feel like that's putting makeup on a pig. You're just not solving the problem. The main problem and the main thing we want to solve is like an inbox zero effort. So something that you want to use, something that feels effortless, something that doesn't feel like work and more like You open your inbox, everything's sort of organized for you. Things that you don't care about are hidden. Replies are ready to be sent on your behalf. Research is done on your behalf for people you're talking to. All this sort of building a sort of ecosystem that's like easy to use, sort of like a dream email client for our users. That's where we really want to differentiate. So in summary, an easy to use email client is where we're going. And sort of like an effortless migration. We don't want this to be put in any effort to get used to, and that will be our differentiating factor, in my opinion.
It is very interesting because, again, being a user of Superhuman, that's why I was so interested in Zero. They've been rather slow, I think, rolling out features. Maybe it's because they're too big. That's the always the same problem. The small startup comes and disrupt, and the big startup uh, um, cannot, evolve and update its product quick enough. They had a big user base, and people who are eager to do it faster. But yeah, the product has not changed a lot
Yeah.
for a long time. Recently, they rolled up a little bit of AI, which is good, but yeah, AI can do so much more. Maybe they finally do more, but you have opportunity to do so much more than they do, and you're moving super fast. Something that I was very impressed with is I checked out Zero, so it's zero.mail, right? Just for everyone
Yeah,
to
zero dot email. We
oh,
got a new
sorry.
domain that I'm very excited to announce in a few weeks. But yeah,
Okay, for now it's zero.email. Okay,
yes,
so
number
just
zero dot email.
go sign up. There's a free version,
Yep.
small, usage, and then a paid version, but it's a freemium product. And so I tried it at the beginning of the batch, and I was like, okay, well, not very polished. But then I
Yep.
tried it a month later, and I was like, oh wow, they shipped a lot of new features. And then I tried it again at demo day, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, it has
Yeah.
changed so much. So
Yeah.
in 3 months, you build something that's probably at the same level as Superhuman, or almost there, that they took 5 years to build. And so
Yeah.
that's how fast you're building. You're also parts of it is open source. Can you talk about that? And is that helping you to build faster?
Of course. Yeah. So we really value shipping fast, and it's great to hear that you've seen how this app has progressed. Yeah. When we got into YC, we barely had a product. We were testing out the speeds as we got into YC, and it took like 3 or 4 seconds to open up an email. Let's just say that's pretty much gone now. We're still optimizing and building a really good app with really good infrastructure and all these different great features that we're constantly improving on. Um, but yeah, man, it's been a crazy ride in terms of shipping. But back to your point on open source. Yeah, we're completely open source, and my approach here is to have a sort of a standard for open source software. Most open source companies are dev tools, but there isn't a standard for open source non-dev tools. So scheduling in cal.com's case, or email in our case, I want to create this sort of ecosystem that allows people to open source their software, because at the end of the day, that will only benefit the user. They know where their data is going. They can self-host. They can make PRs. We have a ton of our users that are devs, and they love making PRs on Zero for any feature they might like. And half the time, the PRs are okay because some of them aren't great devs, but it gives us ideas. So in a way, it has helped us ship faster, but more importantly, it's helped us see what users care about and interact with our users and have a relationship with our users that's way different than like a closed source or private company.
And very interestingly, you mentioned cal.com, which is an open source calendar that I'm using personally. I moved off of Calendly and to cal.com, the cloud hosted version, but still the free version. It was better than Calendly for me. And so you learned at cal.com what open source can bring, that you can build non-dev tools as open source and do a lot of stuff with that.
Yeah.
And that's what you're applying to email. Calendar is sort of a very obvious thing that everyone uses, email as well. And it's probably much harder to do email right, AI first, than calendar. So you took your experience as one of your first jobs or your first job and translated it to somewhere else. That's a pattern that I've seen in a lot of founders that do really well.
Yeah. Okay. Scheduling is very difficult, and like it looks simple because there's not a lot of like logistics involved. Like the number of logistics is just it's not as much as email. But for example, time zones and managing time zones is probably one of the most difficult problems in all of software engineering. So if you have a chat with any of the Cal founders, they'll tell you like solving that was a big problem. Um, but yeah, like I only know like Cal is my first engineering job, so I just that's all I kind of know in terms of startups. I've watched videos, I know all of that, but in terms of technical and personal experience, um, honestly, anything that came out of zero, what like the open source part was just me working at Cal because I just that's all I knew. All I knew was open source, so this was going to be open source as well. I saw the benefits, I saw everything like that. So yeah, maybe if I worked at a few other different startups, it wouldn't have been open source. But since I was at an open source company, it just felt like the only logical option.
Just to scratch my own itch in terms of curiosity, it's not really on topic, but just a quick sideway. Why is time zone so difficult to solve? Because you just if it's like it's a plus 12 minus 12 range, and it seems super straightforward.
Yeah, but that's meetings between two people. Like you're
Okay, so
talking meetings
it's
between like 5 or 6 different time zones, and
okay.
managing the availabilities of all of those people. It's very complex.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I didn't get. Okay, I'm
yeah,
I'm often I'm traveling a lot, so I'm
yeah.
always juggling Europe and San
Yep,
Francisco, Asia and
yep,
San Francisco,
yep,
East Coast and so yeah, I
yeah,
know, but it's
yeah.
usually one on one, but it's more okay. Cool.
Yes.
Back on track. So something very interesting about you as well. There's so many things interesting about you. Another thing is you have a big social media presence. That's something we have in common. Or you're much bigger than me on X. So X is your main thing, but you also did some YouTube. I do a lot of YouTube now, and you're big on open source, which is community. I don't have it. I don't do code. I don't code. I'm a fund, but is the social media following YouTube X from the open source community? Is it the other way around? Does people find you on X and YouTube and then join the open source? And then talk about how this started, what it brings you today.
Yeah, like I think it's twofold here. I was doing social media way before I was doing open source, but having a social presence and having like being open source definitely helps my social presence, and my social presence helps like the open source side of things. Um, it's a strategy. Honestly, that's what it is. The age of like
A good
companies,
one.
yeah, it's a very good strategy. I said this to an investor. I don't know if I should have, but he asked what our moat is, and I discreetly like I told him like there is no moats anymore. In my opinion, like maybe a company like Google might have the moat of like unlimited data storage, but other than that, for most startups that are trying to reach $1 billion valuation, $2 billion valuations, um, there's no like software moat because you can build anything now, not just with AI features, but like in terms of just hiring and the ability to spend capital. Anyone can acquire capital now, and anyone can sort of build out any feature that they like. The only moat, the only logical moat at that point is sort of anything you do outside of building. And for us, and you've seen it with Cluely, with Roy, who's amazing by the way, is your social presence and how people perceive you. Um, we will always win compared to any other email client that's starting to compete with like Superhuman or Gmail, because we have a social presence, and because we have a social presence, we're able to talk to our customers, we're able to hear back from what they want, and people will instantly think of us when they think of email. That's the connection we're trying to make, and we're making a bet over the next like 1 to 2 years that as the product continues to get better, as we're adding more features, as we find our product market fit, that we will be the only logical alternative, or the actual email client that people think about when they think of emails. That's sort of what I want to ingrain in people's minds. And honestly, the strategy is working, so I'm not complaining.
I resonate so much with what you say because it is the same technique that I'm doing. I'm also, well, again, I don't have near the success that you have, but I'm trying to get there. Um, to be always top of mind when YC founders think about, oh, who should I get as an investor for my round, and when investors, family offices, LPs, etc., think, oh, who should I invest into as my next fund? And social media presence, I think, is a big moat. That's what this podcast is as well. So couldn't agree more. And
Yeah.
again, it is working for me as well. Now, the
Hmm.
big question I want to ask you is, you and I are pretty rare birds. Most founders don't do that. Most funds don't do that. Thank God. I don't want them to compete with me. But most founders don't do that, even if they're not your competitors. Like, okay, Superhuman doesn't do that. Great. Thank God for you. But like in your batch, there's, I don't know, five, 10 founders who are big on social media, and the
Yeah,
rest don't do it at all.
yeah,
Why do you think that is? You've just spent 3 months with them. Why
yeah.
don't they take it seriously?
They're catching on. I tried to get a ton of people on Twitter, and I did, like, for example, the guys from Den. Uh, I think it's
Yeah,
getden.io, Justin and Linus. By the way, like, my favorite, one of my favorite companies in the batch. Um,
very cool
they
company.
were
Everyone talked about them. Yeah,
amazing, amazing. Their story is actually great as well. But they weren't on social media, and then all of a sudden they started doing social media techniques, like, just shit posting, or they made this agreement with Rippling, I think, or Brex, where they you're allowed to order DoorDash on their via an MCP
yeah,
on their app, and you got a
pizza.
free pizza, and it was
Yeah,
all over my Twitter page for like a week
me
straight.
too. Yeah,
And yeah, and that took a lot of creativity, and they were people that weren't on social media at all. Like, they had no social presence. They just started. They had like 10 followers each, so they weren't socially on Twitter. And then now they're kind of big players. Like, people actually follow them. They have a decent following. Whenever they post, people are interested. So they built up that following. But back to what you were saying about, like, why people don't do it. um, it's it's effort. Like, a lot of people, or a lot of founders, have a lot on their plates, right? You have to talk to users, you have to build. A lot of them are doing engineering and sale at the same time, so there's a lot to do. So when they look at something like marketing and Twitter, they're like, "Oh, this is just another thing on my plate. Why do I have to do this?" What they don't realize is that that's the number one thing,
I
by
agree.
far.
That's why I'm
By
asking you. How can we make them realize that this is one of the
Yes.
number one thing they should do?
They have to see it as a strategy. Just as, like, you have to find a way to convince them that the outsized returns are extremely high on doing this. It's just as important as selling. It's like a form of extreme marketing, and it's a free marketing tool. Like 10 years ago, you had to pay for marketing. Now we're getting paid to market. I got paid on Twitter, and YouTube and all these different social media platforms that allow you to tell your story, talk about your company, and show off new features, and allow you to talk to your own users. It's this mega hub of just like everything. It's just perfect. And
Yeah.
the more we spend time, there are people, they will realize eventually, but I think for us, we're still early, and we've realized that. But to a lot of people, they're stuck in this sort of traditional mindset of, "Oh, I have to do sales this way, I have to engineer my company that way, I have to hire this many employees," and they're sort of against the new route. But I'm fairly confident that as the years go by, and as we have, like, new age founders come in and build newer types of products, you'll see this as an actual source of marketing and sales.
It's interesting because I'm not sure. Because Twitter has been around for what, 15 years, and still people don't do it. I hope you're right, but I have my doubts. But let's see. Two other questions on the Twitter game, because So by the way, plug your Twitter because everyone should come and follow you.
Oh,
You have a great
totally.
account.
Yeah, it's Nizzy Abi, so NIZZYABI. That's me on Twitter and
Perfect.
YouTube as well. But yeah, that's
Mostly Twitter. I see you like
yeah,
10 times a day. So that was one of
yeah,
my question is, how do you make sure it does not become a black hole sucking off all of your time? Now you might answer, well, it's never too much because it's a strategy,
yeah,
but still you want to do other stuff than
definitely.
Elon is famous for saying sometimes he would spend 6 hours on Twitter in a
Yeah,
day. Maybe it worked out for him as well, but do you have
yeah.
guardrails or is it free for all?
Um, Honestly, I just kind of do whatever I do. It can get bad. Like, sometimes during the batch, I was like on it a lot, and I could have spent more on, like, engineering, or sales, or talking to users. But you always have time. A tweet doesn't take that long to cook up. It's like less than a minute. So if you're spending like 10 tweets, 20 tweets a day, like, that's less than 20 minutes a day. Um, and a lot of the times, you're posting demos. Like, I try my best to post screenshots of progress. So I do kind of excuse that as a way to, a form of, like, marketing or hype. Um, but you have to find time. You have to find time. Like, you have to you have to notice that there's value in it, and you will benefit the more you talk about your product. And you there's no limit in how much you can talk about your product. I think more is better. Look at, like, Guillermo Rauch. Like, he talks about Vercel like 100 times a day, and no one's sick of it. So, to anyone that's, like, sort of wants to post, just post. Like, just talk about it as much as possible, and people will naturally be attracted to things that they like. and it's actually a funny way to find not product market fit. That's not the right word, but to know if there's any interest in the topic that and the things that you're building. Um, there's people building like code editors. There's people building calendars. There's just a ton of different things, and they're sort of finding out what people want via posts.
It's interesting. I was sort of looking at your Twitter again, and there's just so much. Yeah, you do spend
Yeah,
a lot of time there. But you said for me that I'm getting very sort of in the weeds, but it's important. Maybe I'm sure some listeners are wondering as well.
definitely.
When I get on Twitter, I sort of waste time looking at my feed, and that's not what you
Yeah.
want. You want to not really look at that as much as possible, I think, and just craft actual tweets. That's what I was
Yes.
talking about. The time suck. Do you have it? Do you follow no one, or what's the solution there for you?
Well, I definitely scroll Twitter, but it's in a sort of different way. I scroll Twitter for ideas and
Mm,
to have a sort of feel on where we are as like a feel on where the industry is going or the new stuff that are coming
yeah.
out. But I'm looking at it more as like a way to craft up a tweet or to react to
Mm,
something. So maybe like
interesting.
a new thing come out. But I never look at it as a form of entertainment.
Yeah.
I definitely have fun on there. That's why I'm posting a lot. But it's not like I'm scrolling on TikTok and I'm liking posts and
Yeah.
doing all of that. I'm like
It's interesting. You just
strategically.
change your mindset.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of catching up on what's going on, but I should change the mindset of like, okay,
Yeah.
what can I craft? Interesting.
Yeah.
And then last thing I want to, and then we move on. It's not only
Definitely.
about Twitter, but it's a cool
We
topic.
could talk about it
Uh,
for like 2
I
hours,
know.
man.
I
So much
know,
we can
I
talk
know.
about.
You and I, we both, take this seriously. Maybe some people are like, "What? We're not interested in Twitter
Yeah.
anymore." I hope,
Yeah.
but I'm sure a lot of people will listen to this. Have you thought of, or what do you think about outsourcing as well? Do you think it would be worthwhile for you or for a CEO that doesn't have the time, doesn't want to build a habit? Because sometimes I tell to my founders, I say, if you don't have the time, you can outsource to someone who's going to craft. Maybe it's more polished content. It's not as direct and human, but talking about the latest update at zero, talking about what you guys released, blah blah blah, and post this. Do you think that makes sense, or it's not?
Mm,
What's the word? It's not enough. It's not personal enough, authentic.
I think for some posts, maybe like an announcement post where you just released, like you launched like V2 of zero or some like big feature and you want it like crafted in a way that, everyone sort of understands. That's when I would understand you'd have a writer. But like it's the easiest thing in the world to just react to something. And I think you can get away with it on LinkedIn where you have someone do it because it's like a formal platform. But people on Twitter know when you're being fake and they'll call it out. I think the real value of Twitter and why I think it's so attractive to the individual is that it's so spontaneous and the best tweets are the ones that take the least effort. It's a weird reaction, it's a weird emoji to a tweet, or you say something that's like ridiculous in the moment and then people are like, oh, he said that. It's those like spontaneous things. And I think like as a, I think I think that in sales is the only thing you cannot outsource. I believe that. You're you're talking to users, like it's the most valuable thing you can do as a founder of anything. Like y- it's like it's a hub where your customers and your users are, and where your marketing is, and you as an individual can be contacted via these people. And if you're outsourcing that, then like what's the point of this? Like you're running a
Yeah.
company, this is extremely valuable to you. You understand what your users want. People are always complaining about things on Twitter, and if someone's complaining about a certain thing in your industry, you instantly have a feel of what they want. um, and you don't get a feel of your company if you're not sort of on there. um, so yeah, like I don't think you can outsource it, and I don't think you should. Certain things you might want help on, like launch video, but like for the most part, I think founders should just find a way to be socially present.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Thank you for that segment. I had a blast. Let's move on. Talk to me about onboarding, getting people results quickly. When someone signs up, you probably have 5-10 minutes to convince them to come back, or it's just like, oh, because it's free as well. So you're like, oh, you look at it. I'm not very convinced. It's a new interface. It's a new UX UI I'm not used to. How do you like? It's got to be a very insanely complex problem. How do you solve for that, and what have you found works?
Yeah, we're still solving that problem. So we're still in open beta. We're still figuring things out. We're learning as we go. But the main things here are sort of like an onboarding flow. I noticed that initially when users first logged in, we had like really bad churn. Like it was some of the worst we've seen. Um, but as we added this onboarding flow where a user if it's their first time on the app, they get a sort of dialogue, and the dialogue shows them like each like five different steps, and each one sort of explains the main features in our app. So how to categorize, how to auto label, how to chat with the AI. Um, as you do all of those things, we sort of demo it in like a video, and they sort of get a feel of it as they're firstly onboarded. Once we added that in, we saw a huge spike in less churn. So we had a lot less churn. And then other than that, sort of like reminding the user to come back. So we try to send out emails as often as we can. We try to make as much content as well, so that if they have any questions, they can, like, if they look something up, they'll have it right there. So it's a lot of good SEO on our part. And then the most important thing we found was just being there, like, available. So we might get a tweet post about someone complaining about Zero. We quickly DM them, or maybe there's a live chat. So we have something called Feature Base. So it's an application where people can post any features that they might want. We have a link to that on the actual main page of Zero. So whenever someone has a
Wow.
problem, they can quickly post about it. And we also have Intercom. So it's building a space where whenever user complains, we're instantly there, and then sort of building out a way so that when the user's first onboarded, they quickly understand what there is to do. And then on the deeper side, right? It's not making the app too complex or hard to look at. So one of the new things we're releasing is a totally new UI in terms of like how the app is structured. Um, our goal is to make it as easy as possible for the user to just quickly onboard and understand what's going on, so that it just makes sense. I'm a big fan of UX. I'm a big fan of UI, and I'm a proponent that, like, sure, features are great, but if it's like too complex, users are not going to stick. So making the app as easy as possible to first use and easy to look at is a big deal for us. So easy to look at, and then onboarding, and then reminding them, and always being available. Those are like the four main things we've been doing, and we've seen a lot of growth because of that.
It's very interesting for a lot of people out there who want to have a perfect product before they ship it. That's called the engineer syndrome. You stay locked in your room and you
Yeah,
code for years before releasing, and you should
yeah,
ship fast.
yeah,
Reid Hoffman is famous for saying, "If you're not embarrassed, you're shipping too late."
yes,
But what people actually want is not always. Of course, it's good to have perfect product. They do want a perfect product, but they want to be heard. They want
yes,
to get answers
yes,
quickly,
yes,
and people are going to complain. But if you answer nicely and are
yes,
available, so that's good
yes.
for anyone out there to remember.
Yeah, you need to ship fast. That's very important. But we were afraid for the longest time to release, and we entered YC as a closed beta. And not even a closed beta. We had no one using the app. We were too afraid to release it. We wanted to build it, and then our partner Pete was like, "You have to release," and we were like, "Damn!" So we agreed that we'll do a closed beta where we invite people, invite only, and we started doing that. And I think Pete, he didn't say this, but I think him and Tom were like, no, you shouldn't do that. You should like fully release. But we were too embarrassed. So a month into YC, we're still in closed beta, and then we decided, fine, we'll do an open beta. We do the open beta, and we were so scared. We were like, this is not going to end well. People are going to hate the app. We've hyped it up too much, and then people are going to like clown us for having a terrible app. We do the launch, and like we have complaints, but everyone's like, this is really nice. They're giving us good feedback. Everyone's like, yeah, you can work on this. The app's slow, but like it's completely fine. We're really excited for what you built. So everyone was like super nice. I realized that it was
Awesome.
us. It was us that was like we were the ones afraid of launching. We were the ones that thought that people cared about the speed. I mean, users care about the speed, but they're not like gonna block us because the app is slow. Um, we honestly we launched. We, I wish we never did a closed beta. I wish that the day I announced that I was working on Zero, there was a way to use it, at least like the worst version possible. So maybe the ability to just send an email, not even receive, like just something. I think that would have been much better for the company, and I think we would have been like maybe 2 or 3 months ahead in terms of work, because we would have known what the users care about and work towards that.
So interesting. Words of wisdom for the next founders. Have never, spoken, truly, truly spoken. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um, I wanted to talk to you as well about voice emails, because I know this is something you care about and
yeah,
you're working on. and it's in the latest YC request for startup for the upcoming batch, summer
Yep.
25. But you might beat everyone to it,
Yep.
hopefully, because you've been working on it. You know, you don't have to say what's confidential, but how are you approaching it? Is it one of the biggest features you're excited to release soon? Just tell me what you think, how you think about that.
Yeah, it's definitely in the works. We have it we have it working. I've been using it, and I'm very excited to release it. And yeah, I saw a few companies in the batch doing email. Like one's doing agent mail, where they're building inboxes for agents, and it's like an API. It's like a mix between resend and like an inbound sort of thing. It's very fascinating. And then in terms of voice, I actually heard about them a few days ago, and I think it's a very interesting concept. I know that a few of the partners were talking about it, and they want that feature released on Zero. So we're definitely looking into how we can release that as fast as possible. But yeah, um, voice is a heavily requested feature, and in some way we do want it on Zero. So
It's interesting. It is one of my dreams to, because like you said, Superhuman feels like homework sometimes, where, sorry, where it's faster, but you still have to do it. And my dream is just to pick up my phone and have a walk and
yeah,
talk to my email. So how's your experience been yourself using it? What do you think is missing? Do you think it is transformative? Do you think people will use it a lot? And if yes, you should probably be one of the first to have it and run with that, because it is, I think, a game like a killer feature.
I maybe it's just me. I use it, but it's mostly for like summarizing emails. Like I just use it for that. But I'm probably not I'm not our target user at all. I know a lot of our users they drive to work and they want to just have everything organized by the time they get to work. So I think some killer features within that would be the ability to label things and to discard emails that you don't care about. So imagine you calling your inbox and you're like, "Hey, anything not related to the Lobster podcast or anything not related to my VC fund regarding deals, just remove it. I don't really care about it." Or imagine you can have your inbox like tell you a story about like 10 new emails that came in overnight. You could just ask it to summarize those emails, draft up replies to those emails, and then by the time you get to work, so you had like a 15-minute chat with your inbox, everything's sort of in place and ready to
That's the
send.
dream.
Yeah, and that would be the real where the real value lies. Um, yeah, I think there is room for that, and we have a lot on our plate, so we will try to release that as soon as possible. But yeah, like it's in our sights.
Well, I'm excited to see it come true, and I will be one of your very first users,
Great.
because it is one of my dreams.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let's sort of talk a little bit about your vision of the future and the market of emails.
Yeah.
Um, so, do you see a future where no one reads their email manually anymore, whether it's voice we just talked about or just AI agents and summary? Do you think sort of email the way we know it today will change forever and disappear?
I think that's a very utopian approach. People will like to talk about like this ideal world where AI does everything for you. I look at AI more as an assistant more than anything. Um, I don't know about you, but I still don't trust AI to autonomously do things for me. Even when I'm writing code, I still have to accept the
Yeah,
actual output. So when I'm using something like Cursor, they have the agent mode. That's like the best feature they have, or Windsurf. Um, I'm using it and then I say, hey, do this for me. It does it for me. I see the outcome, but I still have to hit accept to see the code in my, like to have it finalized. Um, that's the sort of approach I want to take with Zero. Thinking of it as more of a personal assistant where like you imagine, right? You can call it and you're like, hey, organize it for me. Or, um, imagine the AI assistant knows exactly what you want to see, don't want to see, what you want to respond to, what you don't want to respond to, how you want your inbox laid out, what you want labeled, and allow you to interact with it however you want, integrating with any app that you want, any single app. Um, that's how I see the actual inbox working. Sort of preparing it in a way that you like and making it really easy to use instead of just fully autonomous. Because we still have to communicate, we still have to understand what's going on when you're talking to individuals. You still need to be there for business deals to get done, right? So I'm thinking of it more as a personal assistant where you're giving it the hard tasks to do, but you still have knowledge about what's happening and sort of the outcome of the situations.
It's interesting. That was that played into my supposedly next question of, is email just a wedge into something bigger? And apparently it is. Is like it becomes an assistant in the
Yes,
end.
it's
You know,
gonna be
knowledge workers. Sorry, go
it's
ahead.
gonna be a full assistant. I'm very excited for what we're gonna build over the next like decade. I want to be the company and the person that solves it. And we will. It's gonna be interesting to see how it looks, and I'm very excited to see what we build in terms of how does the user actually interact with it? How much AI do we want? How little AI do we want? What type of apps do we want in this app? Who's using us? Like, now we have a ton of founders and salespeople and marketing people, but do finance people need this more than marketing people? So there's like a ton of things we can do, and there's such a blue ocean that I'm like, I get excited thinking about it.
It's really cool. And email is a good place to start because you get so much data. You get my emails. You know everything about me. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
Like, when you basically know everything about the individual. Like, if you open my inbox now, you'll know where I am in terms of fundraising, where I live, the bills I have to pay, what shows I like to watch, where I shop, where I'm gonna go travel. Like, there's so much context there, and
Yeah,
there's a true opportunity to do a lot with it. So I see a lot of opportunity there to do a lot of things with your email.
absolutely. Is there on that note? Is there a difficulty of trust of getting people to connect their inbox, and how do you solve for that?
I don't know. I think there's a group of people that just they're naturally skeptical, and they're like they should be. We're doing our best to be as like compliant as possible. So we have our SOC 2. We are in we're obviously open source, so you can self host. Bringing in your own API keys is also something we want to add. So doing all these things to at least allow those skeptics to move on. But there's always going to be that group of people that just are going to be that way, and we want to support them as much as we can. And if they don't want to onboard, then that's totally fine. But the numbers are very little. Maybe like less than 0.5% of our users actually complain about such things, but they complain about other things as well, like other clients, other data stuff, other like just a whole thing. But yeah, we're doing our best to at least support them in some way.
Yeah, cool. It's if it's a minority of users, it's fine.
Yeah.
Um, it, did you uncover something non-obvious about user behaviors, talking about the data that you have or the way people use their mailbox? I don't know if you're there yet, if you have uh, 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 enough data to measure that, but have you uncovered something non-obvious about user
Mm.
behavior, something that was very odd, very surprising to you?
Trying to think. People just want like a good experience, and they want the app to feel good more than anything. Also, this probably is more interesting. Users will complain, but they don't know what they want. Like, they will complain about every single thing. They will complain, "Oh, Superhuman doesn't have this, Gmail doesn't have that, this app doesn't have that." Or like, I hate my inbox. Like, people say that, "I hate my inbox." And I'm like, "Why?" And they might give me a reason. And I'm like, "What do you want? Like, what do you want in your inbox?" And they don't know. So I realized, like, as a founder, as a CEO of the company, it's actually my job to figure out what they want. It's not up to them. If we knew what the users wanted, then everyone will just build it. Everyone will build it, like the next Vercel or the next Cloudflare. Um, but it's actually up to you to figure out what that thing is. Like, it's your job to actually take the complaint and build out and engineer something that they want. Create something. So that's, I think, the most interesting thing I've learned. It's like, yeah, people will complain, but you have to actually build out that solution.
That's really cool. Yeah, people
Yeah,
don't know what they want. It's the very old quote, people just wanted faster horses. And
yeah.
very, very
What
cool.
does that
Okay.
look like?
And
Totally.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so what I've asked you, does emails, does not exist the way it is today? Is it all autonomous? We talk to it, it's agents. You said it's probably wishful thinking. What do you think email looks like 5 years from now in
Um,
general and with zero?
it, again, it'll be effortless. You can imagine opening up your inbox and everything is labeled how you want. You're literally looking at your inbox and it's things you actually care about. Um, for me, I don't really care about my meeting emails. Like I get like 20 of those Cal emails a week, and I'm like, I don't care about them. They're in my inbox. I have to delete them. I don't. I just I get them. It should be added to my calendar. That's it. Like that's all I care about. So you
Yeah.
can imagine not
And you
having to
can
see
you can
those.
always create a filter, but it's like it's manual, and
Everything's
then
manual.
sometimes the
Yes.
sender email changes, so the filter doesn't work. Like,
Yes.
it's a nightmare.
So everything will sort of be automated in a way where you open up your inbox, your calendar is organized, and all you're looking at is stuff that you actually have to focus on. So maybe it's like a work related email or a task you have to do. And maybe it's like 5 or 6, but it's the 5 or 6 you actually have to do. The rest of them don't really matter. Um it's gonna be effortless. It's gonna be almost like silly looking back in like 2 or 3 years on like how much time we spent on email. Like imagine you know 2 3 hours a day. Imagine that in two or 1 year, it's like 20 minutes where you open up your inbox, everything's organized for you. You reply to the things you need to. Maybe they're already have a response they're ready for you that you just have to hit submit, and then you're done.
Yeah, insane. Very cool. All right, we're almost out of time. You're a busy founder, so I wanted to go. Is there a before we wrap up and people you tell people where to follow you, etc. Oh, you've said already, but we'll
Yeah.
remind them. Uh, um, is there something we didn't talk about that you really wanted to talk about today? Something you're excited about, or a topic you really want to you want to double click on?
Any topic. No, man, it's just really cool to ship, and like I'm very grateful that we get to you know build something that hopefully changes the world, and like it was just an awesome it was an awesome experience to be at YC. Um, I talked to founders before YC, and they're like, they take a big percentage of your company, and like 7% for whatever 125K. It's a big chunk of your company that you're selling at a very low valuation, but the amount you learn, the connections you
Yeah,
make, the community you're in, it's unlike anything else. Like,
yeah,
let's say Zero goes to shit, we're always gonna have YC there as like a backing, ex YC founder. There's job postings there. You even learned how to like fundraise, which is just such a valuable skill. Like you learn how to do it in like a time in like less than 1 week. You learn how to fundraise, and that's like a very valuable thing that will be with me for our Series A, our Series B, our Series D, hopefully an IPO. So it was just an awesome experience overall. We made a ton of friends. Anyways, I'm rambling, but it was a fun experience, and I wish that anyone that's sort of skeptical doesn't be skeptical and just does it, because it'll be the greatest experience of your life.
very cool. I agree
Yeah,
very much. And just you started this sentence by saying it's good to ship. It's amazing. I've been following a lot of YC founders, and you've been. I see now a difference in success and outcome with how fast people are shipping, and you've been
yeah,
shipping very quick. Like I've been impressed at the pace.
yeah.
So it's
Thank you.
in my very humble opinion for now at least it's looking very good. So let's hopefully you can
It's a
keep it up.
marathon. It's a
It is.
marathon. Like,
It
it's
is.
like thinking in 10 years, like not just thinking the next like 1 year. We have a decent amount of runway. We raise a good seed round. We're not trying to burn it in 1 year. We're trying to, conserve it in a way that we can take risks, but we have this long time span where we can sort of calculate and do make calculated decisions that will benefit us in like 5 10 years.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right. So, like you mentioned, the best place to try Zero, it's free to try, is zero, the number zero dot
Yes.
email.
Yes.
People should really go and follow you on Twitter, Nizi Abi, Nizzyabi. And thank you so much for taking the time to
Of
chat today.
course.
I had a blast.
Yeah. Likewise, Gabriel.
Thank you so much. To our listeners, if you're still here, consider subscribing. You can come on YouTube, see our beautiful faces, or leaving us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you next week. Bye, everyone.